Subscribe to our newsletter at theartofconcrete.ca. In this video, I challenged myself to create a concrete sculpture in less than 1 hour. Now, I had no idea if I could do this or not. I took some polls online, and this is what the poll came out to be. So I decided, you know what the hell? At first, I had a 30-minute deadline. I was going to challenge myself to create a sculpture in under 30 minutes. And for me, that 30 minutes isn't enough time. I like to try my best to make it look good, and I didn't want to rush it. So I decided to extend that challenge to 1 hour. So stay tuned in this video. Until the end of the video, you're going to see the finished result. So I started off with this drawing, and I find drawing the project prior gives me an idea of what I'm going to create, gives me size and scale, and also helps me understand, like, what is this thing going to look like? And it's not always going to turn out exactly like the drawing, but it just helps guide you along what your goal is here. So I started off with 5 feet, and then I scaled back to 4 feet. And I think I had 32 inches here, and I went down to like 25 inches. Mainly, I just felt like the project was getting too big, and, I decided to scale it back a little bit. What I'm creating is a artificial rock planter. So it's a sculpture. And this is something that's different, and trying to get this done in under an hour is extremely difficult without, slopping something up and making it look okay. I wanted to look the best that I could do here. So, this is a foam core chunk of styrofoam that I basically carved out to the design that I was trying to go for. And then I layered it in cement and concrete products to get the look that I wanted. And then I colored it after. So stay tuned. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comment section. So a couple of things that I wanted to have on this are the ability to put in a decent sized plant. I wanted like maybe a 6-inch round area, or a couple of different areas that are 6 inches round, and to have it look like rock. That was my main goal here. So I use styrofoam because it's moldable, and it takes up a large volume of that area really quickly. So instead of pouring a solid chunk of concrete, this thing is super light and will allow that ability to shape it and mold it the way that I want to. So the vision that I'm going for is just purely out of thought, and using the styrofoam helps create that from a 2D to a 3-dimensional sculpture. At this point, I really didn't know how I was going to get this sculpture done in less than an hour. Just unrealistic, but stay tuned. So what I basically did was I took a bunch of pieces, I cut them to how I thought would mirror the image of my drawing, taking into account that my drawing was just a rough idea. And I felt when I'm crafting, sometimes I will read the material. Maybe I see something in the styrofoam, a shape that I want to incorporate in it. So then I change it, and I start seeing, what this sculpture is going to look like, I guess. I don't sculpt a lot. I do the concrete work and that, but, I find it interesting. After this project, it was interesting because you're kind of reading the material and seeing the vision come to life. So it's kind of neat in that aspect. Just laying it out like this gave me a better perspective as to what it was starting to look like. Taking the paper image and then putting it into now a 3D image that I can understand more of what it's going to look like really helps the process. So if you want to try sculpting, or you're looking at doing this, I found just simply laying it out helped for me. So now this was a hour-long challenge, and putting some forethought into this type of stuff next time will help it come along a lot faster. The styrofoam was not glued together because I only had 1 hour to do this project. So what I did was I used rebar and I stuck it through each one of these styrofoam pieces to help secure that in place. Otherwise, this stuff just flies all over the place. I chose the foam core because, I talked to experts like from Rockscapes and I think Rocka Concrete and Canelo Rocks and some of these other companies that do this stuff. And I found that if you can shape the styrofoam and it already starts naturally looking like rock. So this has kind of been my choice for the medium, is the foam core, so that it can get that rock look. You can see right here, you're starting to get the angles, is starting to look like something. Some of the challenges in working with the styrofoam is that it's messy, and having a vacuum handy has been my go-to. I found using the saw has been great in shaping the surface. It cuts right through the styrofoam really easily, so that's been something that I would say made the process easier. No, I think if you're going to do a DIY project like this, I would glue this together. There's a special product that you can get, a caulking, that you put in a caulking gun, and you can glue the styrofoam together. I did this on other projects where I glued the styrofoam together, and it made it a lot easier. So I'd recommend you get something like that if you're going to try working with the styrofoam. I've used the hot knife before, and I didn't like the smell of it. The stuff just stinks when you're using the hot knife. So this is my preference. I prefer to use a saw. You can cut straight through this, no problem. I've also used an electric chainsaw. That was good. But again, it's just so messy. That was the one thing that I really don't like about this product. The styrofoam is cut to the shape that I'm looking for. I noticed, styrofoam, it breaks super easily. So you can see pieces of the styrofoam there. And with the limited time, I really didn't, being in a time crunch, under 1 hour to do a project like this, and not having all of the tools, all of the glue, and all those things that I would normally do to create a project like this, makes it difficult, because you can see just like the styrofoam's moving around. And so in challenges, that's part of, I guess, part of the challenges, it makes it challenging. Something, when now looking back at this, I use the concrete as mortar to hold the styrofoam together, because it's virtually just a core of what I'm creating here. And looking back at this, I should have used like little thin pieces of metal, maybe stuck them through there to hold it better, because it was really annoying. The concrete was moving and just really up for the challenge here. What would you like to see me make next? Or how would you customize this? What kind of features would you add, to your custom planter like this? I'd like to know what your thoughts are, maybe some different ideas. Definitely love your feedback. So the base coat's done. It's a lot thicker than what I wanted to have. Being a foam core, I imagine it being super lightweight, and the cement being a lot stronger than what it is. So there's little things that I learn along this process here, that for the next project I can make lighter and stronger. Leftover pieces of styrofoam I stuck in here to make some more texture, so when I do the second layer it looks a little bit different. For the reinforcements, I use the rebar inside the styrofoam to hold everything together. And I used all-purpose sand and the Quikrete commercial grade general cement. My mixing ratio was 3 parts sand to 1 part cement. And I always add the sand to the water. Mind you, I start off with a little bit of water because you don't want your mix being too wet because it'll just fall off of the styrofoam. So I always add the dry sand to the water. That way it can absorb in. With mixing concrete or cement, it's just a matter of adding bits at a time, water, sand, cement, so that you can get your consistency right. There's no real exact formula, to getting this right. It's just about playing with the cement to get it to that consistency. And a lot of the time, that's just playing with it. That's getting your sand in there, your cement, and your water, and feeling out, what that turns out to be like. So it's a bit of an experiment because you're taking the products and mixing it together to find out what you're going to end up with. Maybe when it's too wet, you add some more dry sand or dry cement. You could have sand cement ratio 1-to-1 if you wanted. That's not going to harm it at all. You're just going through more cement than you need to. It's recommended that with concrete or cements, you want to have your mixture as dry as possible. Not so dry that it's falling apart, but you want to have it to a point where there is moisture in it. It's just you want to be able to work with it as well. And that comes from experience working with the product, getting it the consistency right. So if you put it on the styrofoam, if it's too dry, it's just going to fall off of the styrofoam. If it's too wet, it's going to be like water. So you want to have an area in between that it's going to stick to it. It's going to give you the consistency that you're looking for. At this point, I'm only halfway there, and I just don't know how I'm going to make it to that 1 hour. I still have to layer it again. I have to do all the rock sculpting, and I'm only on the back side of this, and this is taking a lot longer than I thought. The tools that I used for sculpting was this wet sponge. I used a margin trowel. I used a trowel that I custom cut myself. I also used a 10-inch pool trowel, so it's a steel rounded trowel here. And I used a small 4-inch paint roller that was rolled over concrete to give it a bit of texture so it would look like rock. And then I also used a broom that had cement dried to it as well. Some of these techniques I learned from Rockscapes, some of their tips that they've helped me understand, how you can carve concrete with. All right, the best part of this challenge was getting the texture down. I'm down to, I'm probably only have 15 minutes left to stay within that time frame and to stay within that 1 hour challenge. And it's been difficult to try to keep this on in 1 hour, not only because of the curing time, but the planning, the different things that I know for next time to carry through on a challenge is to make a list of the things prior to make it easier. Now, if you refer back to the start of the video, you'll see that my drawing looks nothing like this. That's mainly because I changed it as I was going. I wanted to add a couple of different textures, a couple of different features, and some of it didn't make sense in the drawing. Now that it's come to real life, it's a three-dimensional creation. Now the sculpture can start developing here. Now, this was the most time-consuming portion of this challenge because I really don't know where this was going. I was realistically just carving and creating this out of muscle memory. So following, essentially a texturing effect that I could come up with. So, I was self-learning while doing this, and trying to understand like exactly what this thing was going to be. And, sculpting is an art form, and sometimes it's not always going to be, what you want it to be or exactly how you imagined it to be. And a lot of the time, artists get scrutinized for their art forms from people because maybe that person is seeing something in that art form that's mirroring themselves and triggers that person. So that's why art can be interesting, because if it sort of creates a sense of emotion or takes the creator to a different place in their creation, that's an interesting journey. And so I wanted to elaborate a little bit on this, that when you are watching art or you're visually seeing art for the first time, if it doesn't give you a reaction, it's not good art. Somebody that has put their craftsmanship into, whether it be a building, a structure, a driveway, a patio, or maybe they're designing something digitally. Whatever it is, we all have our individual art forms, and it's great because it can also help you get through difficult times. Your art form will help you see through situations. Working on something like this, it really helped me in certain situations, or process, emotions or whatever it is. I found that creating this challenge is interesting for me, and I recommend that you start a challenge for yourself. Not only will it hold you accountable for following through with it, but it's a fun journey. Okay, so with the carving, I'm just trying to get some cement in the deep pocket areas, get it to stay, and get everything starting to build up that texture there, and just going over this rock finish, to get that base layer down, and then start carving it. So I found, since I started working with this artist medium, that working with it, so moving the material around, getting a feel for it, the shaping ability, all these things, gets you to better understand what your outcome's going to be, because you can see your creation coming to life every minute you put on the cement. So I just wanted to highlight, some of the ways that I created the rock texture. And one of them was not having a continuous slab. So each area that I felt like was a rock, all it was a rock leaning against the other rock with a sort of a joint opened up between the two to make it look like two rocks were just leaning on each other. And then creating that texture was really just creating different shapes of mounds, but also having the same style of texture. So thinking about, okay, I'm going to make this diagonal shape, and working with that diagonal shape as I was doing it, and not veer off and start creating triangles or circles, or anything like that. It's easy to get off of the design, because it's repetitious, but that's where muscle memory comes in. So redoing that same texture over and over again, which took the most amount of time, because I wanted it to look good, even though it's a challenge. I don't want this thing just to be garbage. I want to keep it, or give it away or something like that. So, creating that design element, and following the same texturing of that concrete really helps you get a real looking concrete finish, in my opinion. My inspiration in creating this was nature. I wanted to have rock in the home. I wanted to have some more plants in the home, and that's where I inspired getting this idea. And through this process, I was really trying hard to stay under that 1 hour limit, and it was just so close. So with the carving process, I was trying to go for an angular sort of rock texture. So you can see I was always going on that diagonal. And, I got influenced and inspired by some of the people off Instagram. And, this led me to this design style because I like this sort of layering slate almost texture. And I'm going to try this texture a little bit more in the future because it looks so good. What textures would you have gone with to create this artificial rock texture? And also, would you have painted this or kept it natural looking? I want to know what your thoughts are on that. I tend to work really well in high pressure situations. So this was an interesting sort of process to go through because my attention to detail, wanting to get it perfect or get it to look as nice as possible, took the longest, and that's where I went over my time frame. Finally, I'm happy with the look. I like the texture of the way that everything's going. This works for me. There's some things I'd improve on next time. And now what I'm doing is I'm throwing color hardener. So this is just a color pigment. It's actually designed for stamped concrete, but it helps give me that stained effect look of rock. And if I would have done it again, I would have went a lighter gray. This is more of a black pigment. So just throwing it on there. Maybe I would have used a brush to fluff it on there because you can see the way that I'm throwing it on is leaving like straight lines. But yeah, overall, I was really happy with the way that the color hardener was, the texture, the way that this turned out. It was an interesting process, and I recommend you trying something like this for your home or your business. You can create little tiny ponds. You can create a fish pond, incorporate glass, lighting, glow in the dark elements. This can be put inside and outside. There's just with this foam core artificial rock craft, it's endless, and you can do almost anything with this stuff. It's incredible. This was definitely a lot harder than what I thought it was. Having my 30-minute goal was, and then the actual challenge was for 1 hour. This was a lot more difficult than I really imagined. It's just because of the tediousness and attention to detail, making it look super nice was really important to me. So that's where I went over that deadline, is the details. And this is it. This is how it turned out. And this is it. I didn't make it under the hour, but I'm still happy with the results. The rock texture, the coloring, everything. And this thing is under 50 pounds. So it's pretty light. Let me know what you'd like me to build in my next challenge. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks so much for watching.